All right, I'm just going to jump into this talk. So here we go. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. But first thing I want to do is switch to my screens. Sorry, I'm trying to get it all straightened out here. So, designing iOS apps, and this is kind of what I did to get started. I'm not an expert by any means. I always give praise to other designers. I've learned a lot from them, and this is kind of just how I got started and how I kind of hope that you guys, if you have questions, feel free to ask me, YouTube, Twitter, whatever. But hopefully, you get something out of this. So, if you're wondering, how do you get started in design? So, my path was a little different. The first thing that I did to get into design was actually starting with Dribbble. And I'm sure this is probably common that you've heard this. There are people who have done some sort of designs in Dribbble, but I'm going to take a different approach for it for you. So what I would do is I would go on Dribbble and then I would browse through any of the designs that I'm actually um I would go through here and find things that I liked. I don't I emphasize it that way because design is a preference of how you perceive something of your own. So if you're gonna kind of develop your own style. So the great thing is that with this we can go through Dribbble and we can find different things. So here, as you can see, I can go on Dribbble and I can put in a workout app or a weather app and put iOS and hit return. Now, how do I learn from this? So what I would do when I first started is I would just find something that I liked that piqued my interest. I would take it and then I would bring it into Sketch or Figma and recreate it. That was all my focus was. And why did I take this approach? Well, this approach allows me to one, learn how to use the tools in Sketch or Figma, and two, just get comfortable being in Sketch and Figma. So I would find a design that I would like and take it from there. And from there, once I have it into Sketch or Figma, I would try to figure out what fonts they're using. I would go into an app and see if the fonts that they're using is something I can figure out. Now, this step isn't really necessary. You don't have to try to figure out fonts, but for me, this is kind of how you figure out what fonts you like. So on Dribbble, sometimes you can comment, "Hey, what font did you use?" Or somebody else already asked, and then you can find the font. Sometimes they're free, sometimes they're not. But I find that UrbanFonts.com and 1001fonts.com are really good places for you to go to actually get fonts you like. They're free. They have some sort of you have to make sure you check if you're going to use it in your iOS app for usage, but most of them are available for you to use if you want to embed it in an app. And if you're looking to do that, I also have a YouTube video on that. But in this case here, I try to figure out what the font is, and that's what I did as my process. After that, I would then take the design, and here you can see this location tracker. So I found the design, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, copy the image, and I'm going to bring it into Sketch. And what I'll do is I'll just create an artboard and then I'll adjust it and then give the artboard a full screen so I can see everything. Then I'll go and create a template for the iPhone and set it up right next to it. And then I'll take the image that I pulled from Dribbble and resize it so it fits perfectly within the frame of an iPhone. In this particular case, I use the iPhone 15 Pro. I would recommend that you use one of those designs in the middle around the 390 range because then you're really good at it. And as you can see, the way that I would do it is I start creating shapes, and shapes are simple. There's squares, there's circles. You can do radiuses or corners for your shapes, and all you do is just resize things, get them right. You can change the color by selecting them and using the eyedropper, and just basically changing the colors, matching them, understanding the layout, getting it all working. So here, this is what I would do: is find a design, make it work, and then that would be it. And then you can take it a step further if you're doing Swift UI and recreate it there. But here, at least you're able to work on getting sort of a pattern and understanding how you do the design, how you want it to look, knowing the corner radius. When I do corner radiuses, I try to make it an even number. It's not always perfect. It doesn't always come out perfect, but it's fun and it gives me the ability to really create something I want. Here you see me trying to match the font. And first thing I did was I just went to SF Pro and we I found a condensed font that worked and it matches. It's close enough. It's not like it's not going to matter. It doesn't matter if you're really particular about it. You can keep looking, but here you'll see that I'll eventually get it to work. And it's like I said, it's close. It's not perfect, but it's close. And for me, that would be close enough for me to move on, because again, it's not about the font per se. It's just about getting comfortable and being able to recreate it and get comfortable in Sketch or Figma. And again, I didn't note it, but Figma is free. Sketch you have to pay for. I prefer Sketch. I've been using Sketch for years, so that's kind of what I do, but they're both pretty similar. If you're used to one, you can be used to another. You can export a sketch file to Figma and then I believe reverse, so a Figma file to Sketch. So if you want to interchange them, you can. And here you can see I'm dragging in some icons and I'm doing whatever. I'm going to keep going through, but this is a basic idea of how I create an app and how I learned how to design it first. So now creating my own style. So what did I do? Once I've done gone through the process of actually figuring out what being comfortable in Sketch, being comfortable in Figma, what do I do? Now I try to figure out how I want to design my app. So the first thing that I do is again, I go back to Dribbble and I use that for inspiration. But I don't do it in the same sense. I don't just take someone's app and redesign it and call it my own. What I'll do is I will take something that I like. Let's say I'm looking for a homepage screen that I really like. So I'll find something and take like parts of it that I really want and like try to tweak it and make it my own, and then I'll combine it with other things, either section headers or different things. I'll kind of like I call it a Frankenstein. I start taking bits and pieces from other designers and what they do, and that kind of gives me the jumping off point. And when I first started, it took me longer to get the style that I wanted. Now I could get like maybe the homepage or a slight part of what I'm looking for. And then my vision goes, boom, I know what I want to do. And I can proceed from that. But this is a great way to really move forward and figure things out. Here you can see this is an artboard that I used. And what's great about artboards is you can have your layouts, all of them laid out next to each other and see the flow. And you can see here I have the home page, then I have the listing, and then I typically like to show two different versions of listing if I need to, and then I proceed through that using artboards. This is way easier to use. This I highly recommend Sketch or Figma. They both have similar artboard styles, so you should be comfortable. If you're not like everything, you don't have to create from scratch. So what Apple does is if you go to the developer resources site, they have this entire page that's filled with Sketch and Figma files that you can open in either one of the apps, and you can take it and drag and drop it into your app. So let's say you want to do a drop down list, but you don't want to recreate it. Well, you go into the template iPhone, iOS 17, 16, 15. The libraries are there from every single version of iOS. So iOS 18 is also on the site. If it's not on the main public one, then log into your account and you can get it from there. But here you can see it has every asset from literally every device. It has all of the fonts. You have even and when I say every device, I'm talking Vision Pro, I'm talking um the watch, the phone, all of them. And now you can see here product bezels are also available on this site that you can use to kind of see what it looks like on a device. Okay, I'll come back to this later, but this is a great way. and a great place to go. And this is the developer resources and the design. And I'll put the link for you guys to see to get this particular list of stuff. And it has keynote stuff. So if you're doing presentations and you want to put something in a device, this is a great place to find it. So as I mentioned, the product bezels here, you can see. Thank you for putting the link in there. Here you can see right here where you can see each one of them: iMac, phone, watch. All of them are here, and they're different files like Photoshop, PNGs, sketch files, all of that. All of them have that ability. You can take these and put them in, and this is a great place to start and use and get forward through that. Now, some of you might be saying, I don't have time for all that. I'm not trying to be a designer, and I get it and I understand. So, what can you do if you just want to make your app look a little bit better, but not like, the designer freelance, I'm a pro level? So, here are my 3 tips that you can do that you can take your app to the next level if you just want to focus on these things. Number one, fonts. Fonts are the number one thing that take your app to the next level. As soon as I find the right font is usually when I move forward. I never really move forward with design until I find the fonts that I'm looking for, and then I move forward. I feel like the font guides me in my vision. And I typically use fonts for most of the I would say I use custom fonts for pretty much everything. My favorite font is Avenir Next Condensed. Apple released their SF Pro condensed, compressed, expanded. All of those were released recently and iOS 16. And so I kind of switched over to that when it's not when I don't want to do a custom font. So that's also a really good alternative. But I'm going to show you how you can take these fonts to a next level. And Apple actually did a keynote, I'm sorry, a presentation last year on this if you missed it. So here you can see how they're combining 2 fonts. So the Pet Friends title is using a compressed semi bold, where they're using expanded on the subheading. Here you can see again, this one is using expanded black with expanded light, and it's using both for expanded for both versions. You can also flip that and you can use thin as the main thing and then use expanded and compressed to be able to do this. Now, it did used to be painful to do compressed. It has actually come easier if you still want more. I have a um custom font that I actually use where I do expanded easily, compressed easily, condensed easily, and small caps uppercase because I always typically do small caps uppercase. Here's another one that says expanded, compressed, thin. This one is condensed, expanded with black and light. So as you can see, just taking these little things and changing little things makes your app kind of go to the next level. Instead of just doing the typical thing you normally do, you can make some subtle changes there. And here's an overall look of each one of these things that you can put into your app and just change. And I would just open up Sketch and just take the text and have a title, have a subheading, and just mess around with it for 10, 15 minutes until you find the combination you're looking for that app. And that's what I would do with fonts. Here's a better idea of what it looks like. So here is a typical let's say news article. And if I take this and make it condensed, now I can fit more in one area, which is why I love condensed. And here you'll see this is taking it to a compressed look and making it what you want. And then from here, you can see that I'm using expanded on the daily briefing and the author title or subheading. And so as you start combining these together, all of this is a very easy way to just enhance your app just a little. And here, Apple has this thing where they did it with the maps. So when it has landmark, they did semi bold. When they did a road, they did regular bold. When they did a municipality, they did condensed semi bold. And then they did for a country, they did regular black. For a continent, they did condensed bold, and for a mountain, they did expanded bold. So they used the different compressions and the different styles to convey what they wanted by just changing it. And it's all still the same font. Now there's other fonts that are custom that have all of the different compressed, condensed, regular, and all of that. So if you just do a little research and look around, you'll find different fonts that people that you may like that you want to throw into your app. The next step you could do is of the second step you could do is the color palette. And color palette is easy. Let's say you have only one color. Well, you can take that color to color.co and you can go in and, let's say, find trending palettes. What are designers talking about? What do they think is cool? A lot of this stuff is you'll start to see what you like and what you don't like, but you take this color palette and then you can start messing with it in Sketch and say, how do you want it? It could still be white, and then you could do like a pink with a light blue and then a dark blue, and then you start working through that, and then you work through your accessibility and making sure that everything reads correctly for every single person, so that you're not doing a really light like a yellow for something that's hard to read. So color is a great place. And here you can see they have a place where you can just hit the space bar and it'll randomly show you new colors. And here you see that the hex value for each color is there. So all you have to do is just copy, paste it into anything. You can paste it into Swift. I'm sorry. And you can use it in Swift UI. You can also use it in UI Kit for storyboards, or you can use it in Figma and Sketch. All these colors, the hex values can be done here. So it's a great resource to just get colors and themes. If you have a particular color you want and you want complement colors, this site has that ability for you to do it as well. So you have the tools, and sometimes you just don't know where to get them. And this is a great resource. Here's another color palette. Sorry about that. And then finally, you can do things with icons and symbols. And right now, you're probably like, yeah, I already know about SF symbols. And yes, SF symbols are great. And again, if I didn't emphasize, you can take the SF symbol and drag it into Sketch or drag it into Figma. The Figma part, I'm not 100% sure about, but I'm pretty sure it will do it. I haven't actually tried because I don't really use Figma much, but you should be able to just drag it and it creates a vector icon of your symbol. And then in there, you can change colors, you can do whatever you want, you can resize it, and you're on your way. So SF symbols, another great way. But let's say you want to do a little bit different. You want to go a little bit farther, because there's some SF symbols that Apple's like, hey, you can't use it unless it's this, or you can't use it because it's that. Well, then you can use it on Icon Finder. And Icon Finder, if it's pretty cheap to get a membership, but for those of you who are frugal, it's free. They have icons that are available for free. So you'll see here, they have all kinds of different styles of different things that you want to do. And obviously, you can go in and you can search for something. So here, I'm going to search for a globe. And in the globe, I can find something that I want. And then once I find the icon that I'm looking for, I can select it, and then I can pick SVG. Why SVG? Because it scales. If you take this into a program like Figma or Sketch, it'll then allow you and it'll give you the ability to make it resize and make it any size you want. So if you do a PNG, you're basically locked into that res. So you do an SVG, you drag it into Sketch, you export it out as a PDF, and then you can use it for any scale, any resolution you want. Why PDF? Because you can use it and it scales for any resolution. So that's the great benefit of using PDFs and using vectors. So it's a really quick talk. I tried to get through this as much as I possibly could. I saw someone else post another resource for Font Awesome. That's also great. Another great resource is Elements. Has a membership based monthly thing where they give you can download as much as you want. You get the ability to get fonts. They have fonts on there. They have icons on there. All of them should be you should be able to use them in anything you're trying to do, and it's a great resource. I have it as my own personal I have my own personal account that I go to, and I've downloaded probably like 20 fonts that I love. So take the time, get the resources, and like once you have the resources, it's just a matter of taking your taking your time and just learning and learning from others. Give your designs to other designers. They're going to tell you and give you feedback, and the more they see you wanting to learn, the more info they give you. And that's how I've learned. I just take my designs, I give it to a, I have a designer I've worked for 8 years. I send him a design, and he's like, I immediately know any of your designs because you have a style. So I know that I have a style. So it's not an insult. It's great because I like that particular style, and it's great to learn from your style, but it's also great as a developer to learn from other styles. So I forgot the name right now. The guy that does design right now on the top of my head, his name is Chris as well. He does he has a designer flair to his, where he does a lot of shadows and a lot of elements that I don't typically use. So I it's a great place to do and use those resources because you can then learn other styles, so you're not just used to doing one. For me, this is kind of how I got into designing and how I got into being good at it. I guess that's kind of like a, I don't really like saying that I'm good at it, but I feel like I can get by, and hopefully you learn a little bit from this talk. If you have a question, feel free to ask.